do you have a good indication, or do you have good indication methods to measure estimate tendon stiffness in applied settings, and not in the lab? So I suppose that's that field test data, isn't it, of that
Mm.
stiffness?
Well, the only steady, right, there really isn't one. But I think the only methodology that we've used to try and get an indication of that, it's going to be drop jumps and time spent on the force, and then height reached. Yeah, that will give you an indication. It won't tell you how good you are compared to another person, but it'll give you data that basically says this is where you started. You spent this long on the floor, and you got this high. And then when you retested a year or 2 or 6 months later on, yeah, you were quicker off the floor, and you got more height, and that's an indication of a stiffer system, which would include the tendon.
Feels like a double arm takeoff is generating more height. Is this just down to strength, and is it less efficient than a single arm action?
I think, as we mentioned before, the men use double arm, and therefore they're a lot stronger. It hasn't been proved scientifically, but you would see from the videos that we saw that yes, the men just tend to generate a little bit more height than the women. So you only have to compare it with the world records, where the women's is 15.5 meters, and you're looking at a difference between 2.5 meters onto the men's, and therefore the ride on the hop has to have some height on it in order to survive a 6 meter hop. You have to, yeah. The shallower the hop is, the more likely that you be reaching the ground early. And I think that's what the women do. I don't think they're inherently as strong as the men are to be able to take a 6 meter or a 5.5 meter hop consistently.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't think I think there are probably a few women who probably will hop more than 5.5 meters
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, but I mean, but to sort of, so you talk about double arm takeoff, and does that generate more height? It can do, because if you think about it, right? So again, right, just to touch on a little bit on some of the research that's out there, that the free limb, as it were, arms and or free knee coming through at takeoff can aid the athlete in terms of downward thrust, ground reaction forces, by as much as they say 10%. So a double arm actually will provide a little bit more thrust downward than a single arm. So that helps from that perspective. That double arms can help provide a little bit more power or force, whichever way you want to go with that. Do they have to? Well, no, they don't have to, because if we look at Christian Taylor, right, is an 8 meter plus long jumper. His hop is barely 6 meters. Yeah, he doesn't travel anywhere in his hop. Yeah, so he does a double arm, but he doesn't have to go high. Yeah, the double arm is really just his preference in terms of, as Frank says, balance. Yeah, that probably gives him the balance that he feels like. But also then it also helps him with transfer from the hop landing into step as well, because he's got a great step and jump phase after that. So it can give you more height, but it doesn't have to.
I think probably women, is it more about speed and maintaining speed into the board, where women it's more important to maintain the velocity that they have, whereas the men, it's a trade-off, I suppose. There is, so is it a deceleration in speed coming into the board as a kind of from a coordination point of view, running in single arm, changing to double on that last phase?
It can be. It can be, but again, right? I think it doesn't have to be. I mean, literally, right? I've distilled two separate arm actions for each of the versions, as it were. Yeah, but within that, right? There's a load of other variations. Some people will, in the single arm, some people will take that arm well above the arm to do it, and some people just come around the side. Yeah, as in, just come around the side here rather than bring it over the top. But the general gist, right, is that if you're doing single arm, right, you'll definitely take more speed into that initial takeoff, for sure. I think it will help that.
Kerry Lee, what degree of bending is fair after initial contact? This I would imagine on the hops.
Oh, right. So Kerry Lee, I don't think you need to get in on the numbers so much. I say that as coaches, right, we're trying to just eyeball things. And I think certainly if you're about to measure anything, then again, right, it's different for women as it is for men. But it's going to be about 140 or so degrees. That's the maximum flexion. That's the initial contact, either at hop takeoff or hop landing. And we haven't got to the hop landing yet. The next time you have to hang in there for the hop landing bit. Mm-hmm. The next webinar. But again, you will see that because the athlete is going in with an almost straight leg, the bending and the flexion will be less. So let me just go over that again. Imagine that the athlete placed a leg that was 170 degree at knee at the takeoff. If the body then went through a 15% flexion after that, that will take that athlete down to, what would that be, Darren? 150?
155.
Okay. Now, imagine now that the athlete, instead of putting their foot on the board at 170, they put their leg on the board at 175. It's still going to go through that bend at 15 degree. But now, right, the flexion is going to be higher or less. Yeah, the athlete will always flex. What you don't want to do is set the body up to flex even more than it should.
Yeah.
And that's why you're going with a straighter leg. So don't worry too much about the flexion. Go into the takeoff with a straighter leg as you can take, and then let the body do what the body does.
And this one kind of relates to what you just said there. Any methods to prevent that or unlearn that excessive lowering before takeoff? And we talked about this, the penultimate, in the long jump presentation a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, I think Frank went through a couple of methods. So certainly, right. There are two things in triple jumping that has always helped the athlete keep running through to the board. Yeah, tell them to keep lifting their thigh, and if they keep lifting their thigh, it means that they're running. And because they're running, right, they will lower into the penultimate less. Yeah. So one of the cues is lift your thigh all the way through into takeoff, and that will definitely help.
Yeah, it's the words I normally use is stay tall as you approach your board, because naturally you tend to lower yourself a little bit, but if you just keep telling them to stay tall, that also works.
So right, so Louis, that's I think right. So I probably want to just point you hopefully in the right direction, that unless you see that it's a problem, don't go searching for it. So unless you see that if the penultimate is a problem for an athlete, either going too low, then you got to fix it. Yeah, but literally, right? Don't go coaching it. Yeah, if it's not there, right, leave it alone.
Yeah. So certainly don't coach it. Don't coach it. Yeah.
Okay. What is the best drill to help a high school triple jumper to learn the hop? I think the few examples that you gave us earlier were really good examples of that.
Yeah, there are several drills, and unfortunately, we haven't got enough time to show all the drills that I know that you could use. So it's just the basic hopping over 20 meters. You will do very, very shallow hops. Eventually, you start getting the athlete to bring the knee up a little bit, bring the knee parallel or thigh parallel, as we saw in those videos. Loads of other stuff you could do, step drills. The drills that we saw Nathan do, you could do that over a hurdle. Again, I don't know, but if we could at some point spend some time doing some drill exercise for long jump and triple jump, we'll probably be able to see that in a future webinar.
I mean, yeah, it could very well be that we probably need to do something on the conditioning side. I mean, we're doing quite a lot here on the technical things, and eventually, right, we'll probably get to okay, these are some of the conditioning things that we can do. Yeah. So and what Frank has just basically said there, literally, yeah. If you get the athlete to hop shallow, low hops, yeah, and you're literally asking them to land on flat foot to start with, yeah, not on the forefoot, and definitely not on toes. And if you can do it on grass, do it on grass if you've got nice grass, or plyometric mat, depending on whether or not your high school's got one of those or not. But literally, right, it's almost straight leg hopping, making sure that they do that correctly. And as time goes, bring the thigh up to the front. Yeah, we see a lot of young athletes who aren't strong enough trying to do the cycling of a hop and doing it very, very poorly. The way out of that, right, is not to cycle. You can hop without cycling and learn to do it that way first.
Yeah. As they get stronger, then they're cycling.
Then they will cycle. Exactly that. Yes.
Yeah. And there are various, like I said, loads of various drills that you can do to overcome that. There are some eccentric, concentric, isometric drills that you can do to overcome that.
Yeah, and then on the earlier stages to that, if you're talking about a young high school athlete, is, you know, can they handle their own body weight? Can they do a squat? Can they do a single leg squat? Can they lunge? All that kind of stuff. So all of that has to be underpinned by those activities that you talked about as well. So, yeah. Okay, what position do you want to see the back leg flexing at knee after the takeoff instead of the hip, with the foot flexing to thigh rather than extending?
Yeah, I would say the focus really should be on the leg that is doing all the work, and that would automatically follow or make the back leg or the thigh, the free thigh, do whatever it needs to do. So don't focus too much on the free thigh. Just focus on the active foot doing its own work, and the rest of it will follow. If you start following the concentrate on the active foot, then you're going to have problems. Again, it's one of the things that I don't teach. I don't teach that. I don't teach the lower leg work, I don't teach the other leg. I work on the active foot, the foot that's actually doing the work. A bit like what we just talked about, the knee flex. It happens naturally, yeah? Yeah. So if you were to move one arm forward, the other arm will go back naturally. That's how you walk, yeah? When you're walking, that's exactly what happens. The opposite arm with the opposite leg. So it happens naturally.
I mean, again, right? Again, just trying to cover that up a little bit is again reiterating what Frankie just says. In that, I think this is referring to the bent knee exchange as opposed to the one that just naturally just flows and step over.
I think it was in relation to the slide, yeah, with the girl rotating because she left the left foot far behind.
Yeah, and that only happened because she kicked that leg back.
That's how she was taught to do it.
Yeah, you know, okay, maybe that's how she was taught to do it. I think what I was going to say to Carl, right, is that I'm fixing that because it's something that I don't like. But in 95% of the athletes that I've worked with who are triple jumpers, I've never really had to do anything about the free leg because they all just let it fall naturally. But occasionally, right, you do get someone like this who then kicks that leg backwards, and now you have to do something about that. Yeah, and so it's a question of it's not so much how far it gets left behind. Just teach what you think should happen. Forget about what she does. Just teach what should happen.
For me, this is how I really like how you split the kind of force production or pre-production, force production and follow through. That the follow through movements that she's in from the hop has a direct impact on the preparation movements as she leads into the hop landing.
The hop landing.
Into the step, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's going to compromise because our hips, pelvis is tilted, our trunk's forward. Yeah. Now she's got this kind of forward rotation that she needs to overcome, plus absorb and stabilize.
All sorts of problems.
And and not be in that position for that free leg to drive through because that's going to take time. So
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but I've had, I've had a couple of girls who are like that, and you got to fix it somehow.
Okay, I think we've kind of one or two questions left. How to increase stability and maintain rhythm on landing after the use in the single or double arm takeoff. Now that might be for the next presentation.
Yeah, it is probably, it is a little bit about that, but it's also about the engine that we talked about. One of the things that we probably haven't touched on is core strength and control. Yeah, that's how you increase the stability in and around the torso and the hip. It's work that you do, the fundamental movement skill and making sure that certain muscles are doing the job that they're designed to do.
And I think the rhythm bit is really key, you know, the coordination, the timing on everything, landing in the right place in relation to center of mass, which affords you that stability as well. So
it does. It does for sure. Yeah. As we talked about about the girl with the bent knee. Yeah, as soon as things are going out, as soon as things are taken out of positions, that causes a whole load of problems from a stability and strength wise into all the other movements as well. Yeah. So efficient movements and rhythm is probably the key to that.